Test, test, test. Hello.
It's wild and crazy, I promise you that. Who are we looking for? Who are we looking for, Aiden?
You said Shelby.
Shelby. Who's Shelby? You on that way. Is Shelby here? Shelby should be. So if y'all three would go ahead and go on out there, and I'll meet you out there in just a second. Shelby, would you go ahead and go on out there, and I'll meet you out there in just a second. Riley, where'd Riley go? Riley, meet me out there. I'll be there in just a second. Anybody a 4-H'er that can do the 4-H pledge for me? Are y'all 4-H'ers by chance? We're looking for Adeline Upton. That's who we're looking for.
Or any other 4-H kid.
Adeline Upton. Or somebody who can do the 4-H pledge. You got everybody else. What's your name?
Hunter, Varnado.
Hey Hunter, how are you, buddy?
Good, how are you?
I am well, thank you.
Pledge? Then, which one's next?
All right, so Shelby needs to be here first, then Hunter, then Aiden, and then Briley, right? Thank you. Okay, y'all ready? Good afternoon, and we want to say welcome to everyone to our 2022 Southeastern Youth Fair Heifer Show. We're looking for a great event this morning and this afternoon, and want to thank all of you for being here and being a part of it. It is our custom to begin each one of our events with our pledge to the American flag. We will also have two of our exhibitors who will be presenting the Ffa Motto and also the 4-H motto, and then we will open up in a word of prayer. And so at this point in time, I'm going to give this to Sarah Schroeder, and she is going to lead us in that pledge. We're going to ask if you would to stand and remove your cover.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I pledge my head to clearer thinking, my hands to larger service, my heart to better living, and my health to better. Wait, what is it again? My health to better living for my club, my community, my country, and my world.
Learning to do, doing to learn, earning to live, living to serve. Please bow with me in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for allowing us to be a part of this great industry of agriculture. Help us to be mindful each day of the value agriculture brings to our nation by providing a safe and abundant food supply. May we also remember that we depend on you for rain and sunshine. We thank you for the opportunity to compete and participate in the Southeastern Youth Fair. We are thankful for many volunteers that work to make this possible for each participant. We pray that good sportsmanship will prevail in each individual and that you will protect from harm as we exhibit our projects this week. We love you, Lord, and we pray in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Let's have a big round of applause for these youngsters who have led us today, and we'll be ready to begin our show in just a moment. Coming in to the ring this afternoon, this will be our Class 1. This is our lighter weighted heifers. Number 46, Evelyn Pierpont. Evelyn showing with the Town and Country 4-H. Number 98, Taylor Lewis. Taylor with the Wild and Country 4-H. Number 75, Matthew Sapp. Matthew showing with Grandview 4-H. Number 44, Emma Grace Dews. Emma showing with Kendrick 4-H. Number 20, this is Bennett Goller. Bennett showing with the Bellevue Bald Eagles. Number 61, Kylie Summerlin. Kylie showing with the Bellevue High FFA. And number 26, Cameron Simpson. Cameron showing with the Town and Country 4-H. Number 91, Scarlett Ernest. Scarlett showing with the Bellevue High FFA. Number 99, this is a heifer that belongs to Tessa Ward, being shown by Jolie Miller with the Lucky Learners. Number 87, Roberto Zubedia of the North Marion High FFA. And number 91, Scarlett Ernest with the Bellevue High FFA. Dr. Todd Thrift is our judge today, a professor at the University of Florida where he teaches the beef classes. He's no stranger to the Southeastern Youth Fair. We appreciate Dr. Todd Thrift for being with us today, bringing his expertise. Let's give him a round of applause. Dr. Thrift, thank you for being here with us today.
All right, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to evaluate this first class and talk just a little bit about some of the things I'm looking for as they walk these animals out. I'm going to start on this end with the young man's heifer here. I think she's a good combination of the right kind of, when I'm looking for heifers, I'm looking for a heifer that's going to make it in Florida. That's where we're located. She's a female that to me puts things together very nice in terms of her breed type and her package. She's level down her top, pretty good out her hip, good on her feet and legs. She's got some rib and volume. If I could change her a little bit, I'd give her just a tick more than that, but she's very good. I think she's a female that's going to be the right size when it's all said and done. She's going to make a 1,250, 1,300 pound cow and be just right in terms of her type and kind. The young man's heifer in the second, similar in terms of her pattern, maybe a little bit more hair coat on her, but she's very nice in terms of her type and kind, good on her feet and legs, structurally sound. She's a female that's got some rib and some shape to her. Make her just a little bit stouter, a little bit further along in terms of her maturity, but certainly very nice to go in that spot and very closely follows my class winner. The young man's heifer here in the third spot, I do certainly appreciate that type of a female. I think she's very in this world and something we need to think about. She's a female to me that's going to be a little later in terms of her maturity, of her breed type. I would like to see just a little bit more rib and depth to her. That will come time. These cows are considerably later in terms of their maturity. She stands on a little more substance of bone. She falls in the third spot. I do appreciate the lines of this red heifer the young lady's bringing up here. She's got some rib, some volume. She's a very square-made type of a female. Got a little more hair than I'd like to see in a female here in Florida. I think that takes away from her functionality. Certainly a very nice female, though, overall in terms of her makeup. Very level down her top, level down her hip. Got some shape to her rib overall. The young lady's black heifer, very similar in terms of type to the red heifer. Very nice in terms of her lines. When you get her stopped and stood, she's very level down her top. Even going from that standpoint as they walk her out. One thing she does want to do is she wants to roach her top just a little bit when she walks and moves and travels, and I think that puts her in that spot. The Charolais cross heifer in the next spot here, certainly a lot to like about the size and growth of that female. She's going to be a big cow. That heifer would have moved considerably up in the class if she had just a little bit more rib and volume. I really like to see these females at this size expressing some guts and some capacity. I think she's going to be a little harder doing on down the road. Certainly a nice pair of heifers in the next spot, a little different, certainly different type. This heifer coming in here, I love the volume and rib and capacity the female's got. She's got too much hair for me today. That takes away from her functionality as far as I'm concerned. She's also going to be a pretty small cow overall when you look at her. I think that's a heifer that's very far along in terms of her development. Same be true of this stocking-legged heifer here. Got too much hair for me today. I don't think she maybe has as much natural thickness. Certainly profile's nice, but I'd sure like to see a little different breed character. Then we finished the class out with a big heifer that probably has a little bit more condition on her overall today, a little more rib, a little more volume. I appreciate the young man's red heifer. That's the slick hair that I'd like to see. Would like to see that heifer as well with a little more volume and capacity, stand on a little more substance of bone. The young lady did a great job with the little black heifer here at the end. Don't want to take anything away from her. She was just outclassed against what I would say were quite a few heifers in here that were quite a bit older than her today, and that's why she rounds out the bottom of the class.
Congratulations to our Class 1 entries. Winning today's class, number 87, Roberto Zubedia. Congratulations, Roberto. Standing second today, Cameron Simpson. In third place, Bennett Goller. In fourth place, Taylor Lewis. Standing fifth today, Emma Grace Dews. In sixth place today, this is Tessa Ward. In seventh place, Scarlett Ernest. In eighth place, another heifer owned by Scarlett Ernest. In ninth place, Kylie Summerlin. And in 10th place, Matthew Sapp. And in 11th place, Evelyn Pierpont. Congratulations to all those heifers. They ranged in weight from 400 to 682 pounds. Class 2 now coming into the ring. These heifers will range in weight from 690 to 740 pounds. Number 27, Caroline Cassidy of the Majestic Oaks 4-H. Number 81, this is Peyton Williams of Colt Country 4-H. Number 82, Reagan Barlow, Ocklawaha Little Bits. Number 1, Avery Perriman of the Town and Country 4-H. Number 92, the Majestic Oaks 4-H being shown by Nick Ray. Number 13, Ashlyn Neal, the Ocklawaha Little Bits. Number 71, Madison Evie of the Forest High FFA. Number 39, Danella Hislop of the Westport High FFA. Number 40, Delaney Faison of the Bellevue High FFA chapter. Number 10, Angela James of the Westport High FFA. And number 87, Roberto Zubedia of the North Marion High FFA chapter. This is Class 2 of our lighter weighted heifers.
Another nice set of heifers to start off with here. I'm going to go ahead and start with the young man's Brangus heifer on the end. That's a heifer that puts things together in a package that I'd like to see. She's got the combination of correctness. When you look at that heifer and evaluate her, she's very strong down her top, got a good hip on her, got some rib volume, stands on a good substance of bone. If I could change her, I might give her just a little more thickness of muscle. She's very feminine throughout her front end, though, and those two don't often go together, so I like the way that she's made today, and she'll win this class. The Hereford heifer in the second spot, there are things I like about her as I evaluate her. She's certainly a little bigger frame, little growthier heifer, very level down her top, level out her hip. If I could change her, I'd give her just a tick more muscle, like my first heifer, and a tick more rib and volume. But overall, that's a heifer that's made pretty functional and pretty correct in terms of the way she's made up. She stands on a little less substance of bone than the first heifer, but very feminine through her front end, very acceptable in terms of her appearance. The red heifer in the third spot there is a female that is a little different in type. I appreciate the breed character that heifer brings to the table. I would really like to see her stand on a little more substance of bone. That's what takes away from her being up. She's certainly a short-haired, slick-haired type female. I think very functional in this Florida environment. She's got a little more rib and volume, maybe than the Hereford heifer does. Maybe a little, also a shot more muscle and a little more bone would move her up in the class just a little bit further. Certainly like the way this young lady's black heifer hair profiles. She gets out and walks and moves and travels well. That's a female that I like her overall size, the moderation that she has. Very uniform in her depth, very feminine throughout her front end. She's a female to me that just wasn't quite as competitive as the heifers that I had up in front of her. The young man's heifer in the next spot here, certainly a nice female as well. You can walk her. She's certainly a nice female. Wants to get a little higher in her tail head, wants to stand a little stretched out. She's a little earlier in terms of her pattern. Certainly nice in terms of her type. I appreciate the volume and capacity that heifer has. She wants to walk and move and travel pretty good on her feet and legs. Very level down her top, a little earlier in her pattern, and that's why she's in that spot today. Really like the breed composition of this next heifer here. I think that's a female that's going to be very functional. I would have moved her up in the class when I evaluate her. Level down her top, good hip on that heifer. When I watch her, though, walk and move and travel, that's a heifer whose feet are just a little bit long. That takes away from her functionality, I think. I don't know if that's a feed thing or if it's a breeding thing. Either way, that put her in that spot she's in today. Certainly a nice heifer overall, though. The next little heifer is certainly nice in terms of her type and kind and her overall pattern. She's certainly very nice in terms of the way that she's made up. Also wants to roll her toes just a little bit when I walk and move and travel. She wants to roll that ankle just a little bit, and you can pick it up when she walks and paddles just a little bit. Certainly a nice moderate little heifer, level down her top, great hip on her. Next pair of heifers are certainly nice pattern. When you evaluate this young lady's heifer here, in a lot of places she'd run away with the class. She's stylish, she's eye-appealing. She's too little for me today. That's a heifer that's going to be really early in terms of her pattern. I think she's going to, we've had cattle like that back in the 50s. The same would be true of the heifer in the next spot. The advantage, the one in front of her, this heifer as well, she's got some feet issues, particularly on that front end. I don't think she's as sound as she should be. She's a little earlier in terms of her pattern or overall makeup. Next heifer, a little more old school in terms of her style. I can appreciate that. There's probably a lot of carcass quality there. She's got a little more hair coat than I'd like to see. She's a female that to me gives up just a little bit in terms of her overall style and balance. A little shorter through her front end, a little less feminine through her neck. And rounded the class out with effort. It's certainly got a lot of size, a lot of growth, a lot of performance there. Just a little narrower made when you get behind her and watch her from as she walks and moves and travels.
Thank you, Dr. Thrift, and congratulations to our Class 2 exhibitors. Winning the class number 87, Roberto Zubedia, North Marion High FFA. In second place, Avery Perriman of the Town and Country 4-H. Standing third today, this is Nick Ray showing the Majestic Oaks 4-H. This is a club heifer. In fourth place, Caroline Cassidy of the Majestic Oaks 4-H. In fifth place, Peyton Williams of the Colt Country. In sixth place today, Angela James of the Westport High FFA. In seventh place, Reagan Barlow of the Ocklawaha Little Bits. Standing 8th today, Delaney Faison of the Bellevue High FFA. In 9th place, Ashlyn Neal of the Ocklawaha Little Bits. In 10th, Madison Evie of the Forest High FFA. And in 11th place today, this is Daniela Hislop of the Westport High FFA. So congratulations to our Class 2 winners. We now have our third class of heifers. These will range from 742 to 810 pounds. Number 11, this is Ashley Estrada, Ashley with the Dunellen Middle FFA. Number 84, Rebecca Lafiche, Rebecca showing with the Kendrick 4-H Club. Number 54, Jasmine Lopez, Jasmine showing with the Stars and Stripes. Number 68, Lydia Sharp. Lydia showing with the North Marion High FFA. Number 107, this is the North Marion High. This is a chapter calf shown by Mason Bucock. Number 12, Ashlyn Wan of the Osceola Middle FFA chapter. Number 22, Brooke Sakuda of the Caprine 4-H. Number 99, this is Tessa Ward showing Lucky Learners. And number 87, Roberto Zubedia, Roberto showing with the North Marion High FFA. And number 41, this is Ellie Routh showing with the Town and Country 4-H. So congratulations to our Class 3 exhibitors. We are always grateful for the different businesses and individuals who help to sponsor these shows. We want to thank Ag Pro here in Ocala for their sponsorship of our first class today. Class number 2 was sponsored by Ocala Kitchen and Bath. And class 3 here is being sponsored by Roberts Real Estate, Miss Sylvia Leitner. And so we appreciate all of these sponsors. Would you give our sponsors a round of applause? They are what make these awards and all this possible.
Another really nice pair of heifers. I'm going to go ahead and start with the young lady's Angus heifer. I think she's the most complete heifer in the bunch. She's a female that to me is really level down her top, good in her hip. She's got some ribs, she's got some volume, she's correct in her condition, she's better in her femininity, and I think she's sounder, especially on those front feet. That's really a nice profiling heifer overall, really nice mate. If I could change her, I'd sure take the hair off of her. But for what she is, she's really good, kind of a female, and she wins this class today. The young man's Brangus heifer in the second spot, I really like. I had him in the first spot to start with. I think maybe that's a heifer that is not quite as sound on those front feet as I'd like her to see. She wants to roll that front left ankle just a little bit. When she walks and moves and travels, she's a little narrower, coming right out of her shoulder. She's certainly got some length of body, some depth of rib. There's things you like about that heifer overall, but maybe not as good as a couple of the other Brangus heifers that we've seen earlier. The young lady's Beefmaster heifer here in the next spot. I appreciate the breed character in that female. I appreciate that she's a slick-haired female, level top, got a good hip on her, stands on enough substance of bone. That heifer would have walked right up to the top of the class if I had put about 3 or 4 more inches of depth of rib to her. I think that's going to be her downfall overall. She wants to hold those feet up under her just a little bit, but I don't take that away from her too much. I think she's fairly sound and fairly correct. A very nice heifer to go in the third hole. The young man's heifer here in the next spot is certainly a nice broody female. I appreciate that female, levelness down her top and her hip, got a lot of rib and volume. She's got too much hair for me today. I don't know exactly what her breeding is, but I do appreciate her form. I think she's fairly moderate in terms of her size, fairly easy fleshing, and fairly sound as she walks and moves and travels. The young lady's heifer in the next spot, much bigger outlined heifer, probably the biggest framed heifer in the class, really long and tall in terms of her type and kind. I need some more depth of rib to go with her. Need to widen her up just a little bit when she walks and moves and travels. That's why she falls in that next spot. The young lady's heifer in the next spot here, little smaller in terms of her pattern. These cattle are bred a little differently. She's a little shorter necked, a little coarser in her shoulder in terms of her makeup. I think that takes away. She's really early in her pattern. Again, I've said this several times. We've had several cattle in here tonight or this afternoon that have been this way. I think she's going to be a little bit small for my taste overall. The heifer in the next spot, I appreciate a little more growth to her, a little more length and extension to her neck. I think that's great in terms of the way she's made. She's got some rib and volume. She wants to roach that top when she walks and moves and travels. Otherwise, I'd have her a little higher in the class. Young lady's heifer in the next spot, this black heifer is certainly a nice profiling heifer, very stylish, would make a phenomenal steer. And I would suggest that's probably why she was bred that way. She's a female that's got some depth and some rib, but too early in her pattern, too much hair for me today in this Florida environment. I do appreciate the hair coat on the Charolais Cross heifer here. She's a female that is probably going to be more functional in terms of her adaptability, her ability to shed out. She just needs some rib and volume to go with all the amount of frame and growth that particular heifer has. Same would be true for the heifer here in rounding out the class. She wants to get a little basin there and a little cow-hawked as I watch her walk from behind. Certainly a lot of growth. You can't overlook the amount of growth and size that's in that heifer, but she needs some more rib and volume to go with it to keep her in a little better condition.
Congratulations to our Class 3 exhibitors. Winning the class, number 12, this is Ashlyn Wan of the Osceola Middle FFA chapter. In second place, Roberto Zubieta of the North Marion High FFA. Standing third today, Jasmine Lopez of the Stars and Stripes. In fourth place, the North Marion High Senior FFA being shown by Mason Bucock. In fifth place today, this is number 41, Ellie Routh of the Town and Country 4-H. In sixth place, Brooke Sakuda, Brooke showing with the Caprine 4-H. Placing seventh today, Lydia Sharp of the North Marion High FFA. In eighth place, Ashley Estrada of the Dunellen Middle FFA chapter. In ninth, number 84, Rebecca Lafice of the Kendrick 4-H club. In 10th place, this is Tessa Ward of the Lucky Learners. So congratulations to these exhibitors in Class 3. Class 4 now coming into the ring. These heifers will range in weight from 814 to 858 pounds. We have entry number 42. This is Emily Cyrilinski of the Fort McCoy Four-Leaf Clovers. Number 73, this is Paige Donahue showing for the Majestic Oaks. This is a club heifer. Number 103, another club heifer belonging to Vintage 4-H, being shown by Avery Larinko. Number 74, Michaela Lowry showing for Kendrick 4-H. Number 76, Maylee Farmer of the Town and Country 4-H. Number 33, Cheyenne Johnson. Cheyenne showing with the Dunellen 4-H. Number 21, Breely Yeomans. Breely with the North Marion High FFA. Number 18, this is Aubrey Lobig. Aubrey showing a heifer that belongs to the Bellevue High Junior FFA. Number 35, Clayton Cassidy. Clayton showing with the Majestic Oaks 4-H. Number 8, Amaya Evans. Amaya is showing with the Dunellen High FFA chapter. Number 78, Olivia Simpson showing with Town and Country. And number 87, Roberto Zubedia with the North Marion High FFA. Class 4, weights ranging from 814 to 858.
Another nice set of heifers to start off with here. I'm going to go ahead and use the young man's Brangus heifer on this end. There's some things about that heifer I would like to change in terms of her makeup, but she's the right kind in terms of her body type. She's got some rib and some volume. She maybe not as strong right behind the shoulder, maybe a little weaker down the top, a little higher in her hip. She stands on enough substance to bone. I might true her up on her feet just a little bit and make her a little base width just a little bit wider overall, but she's the combination heifer to me that put things together very nice. The bald face heifer in the next spot, certainly really nice. I like the way that she's made. I like her breed type. I like a crossbred heifer like that. She's maybe not certainly as heavy muscled as some of the heifers in the other class, but she's got some ribs, she's got some volume, and she's very real. That's a functional female that's going to survive in the Florida environment and going to contribute to, from a commercial calf standpoint, going to contribute a lot. I think she's made very correctly overall. I think she's walks and moves and travels just fine. Got some rib, got some volume, puts it together in a nice package. Little red heifer in the next spot is one of the smaller heifers in this particular class in terms of her size, but I think she's big enough. I like that little crossed heifer. She's pretty stylish when you look at her from the side. She's got some rib and volume and carries that depth all the way down. She can stand on a little more substance of bone, but she's very feminine fronted when you get her set up. She holds her head very high, level down her top. I think a very functional kind of female. The Brahman heifer in the next spot, a lot to like about her. She's a little bit big for my taste in terms of frame, a little bit large outline. She wants to drop her pin bones quite a bit when she walks and moves. She stands on a lot of substance of bone. I'd just like to see her in a little bit smaller package for what she is in that particular breed today. A little bit more rib and volume to go with the amount of size there. You got to like the heifer here. The young lady's setting up. This black heifer really profiles nice. She's a female that's got probably as much muscle or more muscle than anything up above her. She's got some rib and volume. Gets a little high in her flank, wants to stand with her feet up under her a little bit, but very feminine fronted overall in terms of the way she's made. The next heifer in this particular group is a female that I missed as we were lining them up. I ended up with her down at the other end. She's pretty functional in terms of her makeup. There's nothing that really jumps at me in terms of her overall makeup, but when you look at her, she's very feminine fronted. She's got some rib volume. She's very level down her top. I could use a shot more muscle, maybe free her up just a little bit in her hock when she walks and moves and travels. Okay. The white heifer coming in here is a heifer that there's a lot to like about her. I like her breed type. I like the pattern that she is. I think from a commercial standpoint, we need more cows like that in Florida. She's a female that would have moved up quite a bit higher in the class if I'd had some rib and volume to go with the amount of frame that's there. That's going to be a big cow, a really big cow when it's all said and done. I think she could use a shot more rib and volume to go with all that frame and maybe even downsize that frame just a little bit. The young lady's black heifer in here, giving her a fit this whole time. Certainly a nice female. I appreciate her size and her growth. She wants to roach her top just a little when she walks and moves. It doesn't stand off as free as I'd like her to see off that hind end. Same would be true on the heifer in the next spot. Certainly a nice female. She's a little older in terms of her appearance. Long neck, got some rib and volume, maybe not quite as easy fleshed as some of the heifers above her. The red heifer walking out there wants to drop her pin bones when she walks and moves and travels. That's a heifer that I'd sure like to take the hair off of her. She's a little different type today. Again, very, very, very much would have maybe turned out a little better as a steer. The smoke heifer coming out here is a really nice heifer, one of the nicest heifers in the class. But that's a heifer that wants to really pop her top when she walks. She roaches her top. Something's telling me on the ground, her feet. She doesn't want to flex that hock very well. One of the heavier muscled heifers in the class. Then we finish out with a speckle-faced heifer. There's a lot to like about that heifer. I think she's got a lot of potential as a cow. I would really like to see her with a little more volume, a little more muscle overall to be competitive today.
Thank you, Dr. Thrift. Class 4, once again sponsored by G4 Angus, Miss Jan Gross. Winning Class 4, number 1, Roberto Zabedia with the North Marion High FFA. Standing second today, Clayton Cassidy of the Majestic Oaks 4-H. In third place, Vintage 4-H being shown by Avery Larinko. In fourth place today, Breeley Yeomans of the North Marion High FFA. Standing fifth, Michaela Lowry of the Kendrick 4-H. In sixth place, Majestic Oaks 4-H being shown by Paige Donahue. In 7th place today, this is Bellevue High Junior, being shown by Aubrey Lobig. Standing 8th today, Olivia Simpson of the Town and Country 4-H. In 9th place, Amaya Evans with the Dunellen High FFA. In 10th place, Cheyenne Johnson of the Dunellen 4-H. In 11th place today, Emily Cyrilinski of the Fort McCoy 4-Leaf 4-H. And in 12th place today, Maylee Farmer of the Town and Country 4-H Club. Congratulations to our Class 4 exhibitors. And again, we appreciate G4 Angus for sponsoring Class 4. We have Class 5 coming into the ring now. Class 5 being sponsored by Next Level RV. This is Sean and Diana Dunstan. Entry number 60, this is Kaylee Schmidt. Kaylee showing with the Lake Weir High FFA. Number 95, Simon Myers of the Forest High FFA. Number 2, Ada Perriman. Ada showing with Town and Country 4-H. Number 15, Ava Routh of the Town and Country 4-H. Number 72, Madison Wall. Madison showing with Town and Country as well. Number 42, Emily Cyrilinski of the Fort McCoy 4-Leaf 4-H Club. Number 62, Kinsley Starling. Kinsley showing with the Kendrick 4-H. Number 104, William Paget. William showing with the Bellevue Middle FFA. Number 27, Caroline Cassidy. Caroline showing with Majestic Oaks. And number 108, this is Miranda Sellers. Miranda is showing a calf that belongs to the North Marion High Senior FFA. Class 5, once again, being sponsored by Next Level RV, Sean and Diana Dunstan. These heifers will range in weight from 860 to 894 pounds.
Really nice set of heifers in this particular class. This yellow heifer that the young lady's bringing in here is probably as good a heifer as I've seen today. She's what I've been looking for in terms of type and kind. She's very correct in terms of her size for this given age. She's very feminine fronted. She's got some muscle to her coming down her top all the way down into her lower quarter. She's correct in terms of her substance of bone. She's correct in terms of her hair coat, her breed coat, type, everything about that particular female I like, and she rises right to the top of this class. Young lady's Brangus heifer in the second spot most closely follows her. She's a female that, again, has got some rib and some volume and capacity, level down her top, pretty good on her hip. Doesn't have as much muscle as the heifer in the top, doesn't stand on quite as much substance of bone, but she's very adequate in terms of her makeup overall, and certainly a nice potential female. Then we move into a set of heifers, the red heifer here, certainly a nice patterned heifer. She's really deep ribbed when you look at her, strong down her top, level at her hip, a little bit finer bone in terms of her makeup, certainly very feminine. She's a little narrower made than both the top heifers in the first and second spot. She maybe is not quite as good on her feet, a little longer toed, and is a female that's going to be a little bigger in terms of her overall frame size, but not too big by a long stretch, and I appreciate the hair coat and the breed character in that female. Young lady's red heifer in the next spot, also very nice in terms of her type and kind. I think very real in terms of the way she's made. Appreciate her hair coat. If I could change her, that's a heifer that I'd give a little bit more rib. She's probably the biggest framed heifer in the class overall. I'd like to give her a little bit more rib and a little more natural muscle when she walks and travels, but she's certainly more desirable in terms of her type as far as I'm concerned in the real world today, and so she goes in that fourth spot. The young man's heifer in the next spot, certainly a nice female, a lot to like about her. I give her advantage in terms of breed character. She's not as good in terms of her hip structure as some of the heifers above her. Very feminine in her front end. Could use maybe just a tick more width overall and a little more uniformity to her depth from front to back, but certainly a nice female, more functional in terms of her breed type. The next heifer, there's a lot to like about her when you evaluate her from the side. She's a female that's probably the heaviest muscled heifer in the class, but muscles is going to be last on my list when I'm evaluating females. She's level top. She's got a lot of volume and capacity. I don't like the amount of hair that heifer has. I do appreciate the heifer in terms of her overall structure and the way she's made. I'd really like to take the hair off of her, and I'd really like to true up. She wants to stand with those hind feet up under her, really drop her pin bones when she walks and moves and travels. I appreciate her moderation. Then we move on to a set of heifers that there's things I like about each of them. This heifer here that the young lady's walking out wants to roach her top just a little when she moves. She's got some ribs, she's got some volume, a little narrower tracking than I'd like to see. Same would be true of the young man's black heifer here. When she walks and moves, she wants to roach her top just a little bit. That heifer gets a little base narrower, wants to pop her hind pastern just a little bit. Young lady had a hard time with this Charolais cross heifer. I like and appreciate that heifer in terms of her depth of body. She's certainly very nice. She wants to be kind of short and choppy strided today, and maybe that's just her attitude, but she doesn't want to get out and move. Same would be true of this heifer. I finished the class out a little shorter and earlier in terms of her pattern. Really wants to get short and choppy strided off that hind end. I don't think she's as sound off those hind legs as I'd like to see.
Congratulations to our Class 5 exhibitors. We appreciate once again Next Level RV. This is Sean and Diana Dunstan for sponsoring this class. Winning the class today, number 2, this is Ada Perriman of the Town and Country 4-H. Second place, Ava Routh of the Town and Country 4-H as well. Standing third today, Caroline Cassidy of the Majestic Oaks 4-H. In fourth place today, Madison Wall of the Town and Country. In fifth place, number 104, William Paget of the Bellevue Middle FFA. In sixth place today, Kinsley Starling of the Kendrick 4-H Club. In seventh place, this is Miranda Sellers showing for the North Marion High, a chapter animal. In eighth place today, this is Simon Myers of the Forest High FFA. In ninth place, Emily Cyrilinski of the Fort McCoy 4-Leaf Clovers. And in 10th place, Kaylee Schmidt. Kaylee showing with the Lake Weir High FFA chapter. We now have our Class 6 entries into the ring. Class 6 being sponsored by the Norton Brothers Cattle Company. These heifers will range in weight from 902 to 936 pounds. Entry number 64. This is a Lake Weir High chapter heifer being shown by Mason Mallory. Number 83, Reagan Rowe, member of Bellevue High FFA. Number 85, Reed Barlow, also of the Bellevue High Junior FFA. Number 31, Kaylee Draper, Kaylee with the Bellevue Bald Eagles. Number 16, Bailey Leitner, Bailey showing for town in Country 4-H. Number 69, Lila Huggins of the Kendrick 4-H. Number 30, Caden Souza, Caden showing for the Bellevue Bald Eagles. And number 57, Julia Huttinger of the Wild and Country 4-H. And number 2, this is Ada Perriman, also showing with the Town and Country 4-H. Class 6, once again sponsored by Norton Brothers Cattle. After Doctor has sorted this class, we will bring back our class winners, and we will have a grand and a reserve grand of our lightweight heifer classes. So we will bring back these first place winners in the 6 classes, and then we will have a grand champion in the lightweight heifer range.
It's probably the toughest class I've looked at all day. There's things I like in here about all these cattle, top to bottom, and there are places in the state where I would use any of these cattle. But I'm going to go ahead and start with the young lady's Brangus heifer on this end. She's a very functional female as well. I've picked a lot of those kind today. If I could change her, I'd maybe make her a little stronger down her top. Overall, she wants to get a little slack frame when she walks, but she collects herself pretty well on the move. She's a little narrower base, maybe not as good as some of the Brangus heifers we've seen in here today, but certainly the right type and kind, and she puts it together in a very functional package. Young lady's Angus heifer, the second spot, very stylish in terms of her makeup. That's really a strong top heifer, level hip. She's a heifer that's got too much. Got a lot of rib and volume and capacity to go with that. She's a little shorter coupled from her hook, hips. When you really study this heifer from behind, she's probably got about the same amount of muscle as the heifer up above her in terms of her overall muscle mass. A little shorter in the front end takes away from her femininity. I like the functionality in this next heifer. I think she's very functional in terms of her type. Very uniform in terms of her depth. Maybe not as flashy as the heifer in the second spot, but she kept coming back to me. She sets a little high in her tail head. That doesn't bother me a whole lot. Very uniform in her depth. A little bit finer bone than some of the other heifers that we've looked at today, and she was just up against some pretty stiff competition. The young lady's heifer in the next spot really closely follows the pattern of my third heifer. That's a heifer that's leveled down her top, got some volume and capacity. She may stand on a little more substance of bone, but she's not quite as deep rib as some of the other heifers that were in front of her, and I think that would change her overall makeup just a little bit today. I don't think she's quite as sound on her hind legs as some of the heifers that were up just a little bit above her, but certainly a nice functional female. Like the way the red heifer really profiles. She sets things up really nice. She's very got too much hair for me today. Certainly got the club calf look about her, and she turned out as a steer. That would have been awesome. But she's a heifer to me that's less functional. Even though she's very stylish and eye appealing, I'm looking at this from a real world perspective, and she's a heifer to me. Even though she's got probably more muscle than quite a few of these heifers, she doesn't have the amount of functionality that I'd like to see. Same would be true of all the heifers down the row here. These are a set of females that are very stylish when you get them set up. I don't think they're quite as sound on their front end. There's a couple of these heifers that are a little coarser in their front end in terms of their shoulder makeup. When you really get to study them, it takes away. This heifer here is fairly long neck, but she's got a lot of shoulder to go with her. She doesn't have the amount of rib and volume the red heifer had just above her. Maybe stands on a little more substance of bone than some of the heifers I had above her. But certainly a nice heifer, but just not as functional in the real world to me today. The heifer in the next spot, I'd say the same thing about the next three heifers. All three of them have got some rib and some volume, and they really pattern nice when I evaluate them. This heifer gets a little high in her tail head, wants to roach her top when she walks just a little, but got a lot of rib and volume and capacity. Same's true of the white heifer. I appreciate the hair coat on that heifer. I think it's a little bit more real world. There's a lot to like about the heifer that I finished the class with. When she profiles, she looks really nice. The young man's loining her right there. I think that's one of her downfalls when she walks, moves, and travels. She really wants to roach that top up, and that tells me her feet are hurting her somewhere on the ground, and I think that takes away from her functionality.
Congratulations to our Class 6 exhibitors. Again, we say thanks to the Norton Brothers Cattle Company for sponsoring that class. Winning the class, number 16, Bailey Leitner of the Town and Country. Number 2, Kaylee Draper, the Bellevue Bald Eagles. In third place, Julia Hettinger of the Wild and Country. Standing fourth, Ada Perriman of the Town and Country. In fifth place, Caden Souza of the Bellevue Bald Eagles. In sixth place, Lila Hudgens of the Kendrick 4-H Club. In seventh place, this is Mason Mallory of the Lake Weir High. Eighth place, Reagan Rowe of the Bellevue High Junior FFA. And in ninth place, Reagan Barlow, also the Bellevue High Junior FFA. We now will bring back our first place winners in each of our first 6 classes. And these heifers will be competing for the Grand Champion light-weighted heifer. Once the grand champion has been picked, we will be bringing back the heifer that was second place in that class, and we'll have the competition for the reserve grand champion. Our first place representative is Roberto Zubedia. Our second class representative, Roberto Zubedia. Representing Class 3, Ashlyn Wan. Representing Class 4, Roberto Zubedia. Our Class 5 winner, Ada Perriman. And representing Class 6 is Bailey Leitner. So congratulations to these top 6 individuals. Dr. Thrift will go out and make his selection here in a few moments. We'll pull in that reserve at second place calf in that class, and then we'll have our competition for our reserve grand champion in our lightweight heifers. Like to remind everyone that our Marion County Cattle Women are selling raffle tickets for some beef from Publix. If you'd like to purchase one of those raffle tickets, their booth is right over here behind the stand to our left, your right. All these funds will go toward student scholarships and learning opportunities for our Marion County Cattle Women and the events that they do. Great organization, so we encourage you to support them. Also, we have our Southern Wildlife Federation is present here today. They are selling tickets for a Polaris 570 Sportsman, and those tickets are being used. The proceeds of that, 10% of that will go to the Southeastern Youth Fair. And in addition, they are making a $2,000 donation to the Southeastern Youth Fair Scholarship Fund. And so we appreciate the Southern Wildlife Federation for doing that as well. Encourage you to go over and support and purchase some tickets toward those two things. Our grand champion is being sponsored by Sunny Hill Cattle. This is Sean and Diana Dunston. We appreciate Sunny Hill Cattle, a Dunston family, for their support of our grand champion drive today.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here today and evaluate these cattle. We've seen a lot of good cattle in here. I think you can see by my lineup with the type of cattle that I like to see. I've got a heavy emphasis on Florida functionality in this part of the world. I think that's very important. As a kid growing up reading my dad's Florida Cattleman magazines, I can remember seeing the show cattle and what they look like, and we have moved away from that, and you know, I don't think it's moved in the right direction. I think there's some very functional cattle in the ring here. I think there's some very sound cattle, cattle that will work in the real world for us, and I think that's regardless. I have mostly some eared cross cattle in here, or eared type cattle, but I also have an Angus heifer in here, and they're all very functional in my opinion. With that said, I'm not going to talk about the individuals. I've talked about them sufficiently as we go. I'm going to go through and take one last look at them and pick my grand. Then I'll give them time to bring in the second in that particular class, and then I'll pick reserve.
Ada Perriman. Congratulations to you, Ada. Town and Country 4-H. Ada will be your lightweight grand champion in our heifer division. Congratulations to you, Ada. We'll be looking for Ava Ralph, who plays second in that 5th class, to come back in now to compete for reserve grand champion. Looking for the second place heifer, Ava Ralph, class 5. This is our second place animal now coming in out of class 5. This is Ava Ralph. And your reserve grand champion coming out of that same class, Ava Ralph. Congratulations, Ava. Ava also with the Town and Country 4-H. And so congratulations to Ada Perriman and also Ava Routh. This will be your grand and your reserve grand of our lightweight heifers. And again, we appreciate very much Sunny Hill Cattle for sponsoring Grand Champion, and our reserve Grand Champion, the Newberry Floor Store, Kimberly Stinton. So thank you, Newberry Floor Store and Sunny Hill Cattle, and congratulations to all of these class winners. We will now move into the heavyweight heifer classes. This is Class 7. These heifers will weigh between 940 and 990 pounds. Got number 3, Adeline Upton of the Majestic Oaks 4-H. Number 4, Aiden Permar of the Dunellen Middle FFA. Number 62, Kinsley Starling of the Kendrick 4-H Club. Number 109, this is Sabrina Davis, showing a heifer that belongs to North Marion High Senior. Number 90, this is Samara Jabbar. She is showing a heifer that belongs to Westport High FFA. Number 3, Adeline Upton. Adeline showing with the Majestic Oaks 4-H. Number 43, Emily Wall showing with Town and Country 4-H. Number 56, Bellevue High Senior. Cadence Moulton showing that heifer for them. Number 74, Michaela Lowry. Michaela showing with the Kendrick 4-H Club. Number 28, Carolyn Parker showing with the Vintage 4-H. And number 34, Chloe Davis. Chloe showing with the Wild and Country 4-H. This is Class 7 of our heavy-weighted heifers beginning here. Once again, weights ranging from 940 to 990 pounds. Class 7 is sponsored by the Hensley family. Mike, Sabrina, and family, thank you all very much.
Okay, I had to do a little extra thinking on this particular class. I'm going to go ahead and start with the young lady's Angus heifer on the end. That heifer is very correct in terms of her type and kind. That's a very level topped heifer, very good on her hip, very sound on her feet and legs. She's got some volume, got some capacity overall. Certainly a nice female. Whenever you evaluate her from the side, she walks and she moves and she travels very well. Had her in the second hole, but I think she's a little sounder on her front end in terms of her feet. If I could change her, I might lengthen her out, do her neck just a little bit, but certainly a nice profiling heifer to start the class with. Not maybe the breed type that I've been using today as much, but certainly I think the best heifer in this particular class. The Brahman heifer I had in the top, that's a really good Brahman heifer. The reality is neither one of these heifers are exactly what I want. What I want is to put both of them together, and I think that makes the most desirable combination. This Brahman heifer has got some volume, some ribs, some capacity. She's going to be a little bigger than I like overall for a Brahman heifer, but she's got a good underline. She's got some muscle. She stands on adequate substance of bone. I had to swap her out, though. I think she's going to be a little unsound on her front feet. She wants to roll that pastern just a little bit, and that inside toe is rolling, and I'm very critical on that when I evaluate these females. When I look at the next heifer, the young lady's got this crossbred heifer coming in here, or Brangus type heifer. She is the combination of those top two, and I appreciate that. I wish she had just a little bit more stoutness to go with the amount of frame that female has. She's the right combination of those first two heifers, but I just would like it a little stouter package, a little leveler down her top, a little leveler on her hip, a little more substance, and her top goes up and down just a little bit. The white heifer in the next spot, really like this particular female. She's very functional as well. She's not the kind that I'm looking for. She shows me a little better hair coat, I think, than some of the other heifers that were above her. She's very functional in terms of her uniformity of depth. Maybe just not quite as flashy, stands on a little more substance of bone, not quite as flashy, and doesn't have all the aspects I'm looking for from a commercial standpoint. Next heifer, as she walks and moves and travels out, this young lady's black heifer. Very functional in terms of her size. I appreciate that. She doesn't have the body capacity that the heifers up above her have. She's very long and extended through her neck. It takes away. She really wants to walk and travel, put those feet way up under her and drop her pin bones whenever she walks and moves. Same would be true of this young lady's next heifer. Certainly maybe a little broodier female, got some rib, got some volume, really wants to put those feet up under her when she moves. She doesn't track maybe as wide as a couple of the other heifers that were above her. Black heifer in this spot, same would be said. As I evaluate that female and watch her, she really sets up and profiles nice. When you get her on the move and travel, she doesn't want to get out and step and walk. She's a little shorter strided overall. Charolais cross heifer or the Simmental cross heifer, whatever she is there, wants to roach her top awful bad. That's a heifer that's phenomenal in terms of her makeup, but really I don't think she's got as much soundness as some of the other heifers above her. And then the heifer finished the class out, a little finer bone, a little frailer made compared to some of the heifers above her.
Congratulations to our Class 7 exhibitors, and again we appreciate the Hensley family, Mike, Sabrina, and family for sponsoring that class. Winning the class, number 3, Adeline Upton of the Majestic Oaks 4-H Club. In second place, Chloe Davis of the Wild and Country. In third place, Emily Wall of the Town and Country 4-H. In fourth place, Kinsley Starling of the Kendrick 4-H Club. In fifth place, Carolyn Parker of the Vintage 4-H. In sixth place, this is Cadence Moulton showing for Bellevue High. In seventh place, Michaela Lowry of the Kendrick 4-H Club. In eighth place, this is Samaria Jabbar showing Westport High's calf. In ninth place today, this is another calf belonging to Adeline Upton of the Majestic 4-H. And in 10th place, Aiden Burnmar of the Dunellen Middle FFA. In 11th place, North Marion High, shown by Sabrina Davis. So congratulations to all of our Class 7 exhibitors. We now have Class 8 coming into the ring. These are all heifers that will weigh between 996 and 10,000 or 1,030 pounds. Number 25, this is Camden Collins of the Vintage 4-H Club. Number 23, Briley Hughes Kemmerer of the Ocklawaha Little Bits. Number 50, Gwen Brillhart. Gwen showing with the North Marion High Junior FFA. Number 65, Lane Taylor of the Town and Country 4-H. Number 68, Lydia Sharp of the North Marion High Senior FFA. Number 93, Shelby Peebles of the Dunellen High FFA. Number 51, Hannah McCollum of the Bellevue Middle FFA chapter. Number 30, Caden Souza of the Bellevue Bald Eagles. Number 36, Cooper Alt of the Two Rivers 4-H Club. And number 86, Riley Hall of the Lucky Learners 4-H. Class 8 being sponsored by Town and Country 4-H Club. Ms. Hamie Perriman, thank you, Town and Country 4-H, for sponsoring Class 8. Once again, these heifers weigh between 996 and 1,030 pounds.
Okay, really nice set of heifers in this particular class. I'm going to go ahead and start with the young man's heifer on this far end. That's a heifer that's put together correctly. She really profiles nice. She's pretty good on her feet overall when I watch her. When she's set up, she's pretty sound on those feet. She's got adequate substance of bone. She carries that depth and uniformity down all the way from front to back. Very, very nice female. If I could change her, I'd make her a little more functional in terms of her hair coat. Well, I've talked about that all day. There wasn't a female in this particular class that was particularly outstanding from that standpoint, but certainly a nice female. I do appreciate her moderation as well. Same would be true of the young man's heifer in the second spot. Very moderate in terms of her size. I appreciate that. I think she's going to be a 1,250-pound cow. She's a heifer that's probably got the best hair coat in the class. She's a little slicker than some of these other heifers. A little higher in her tail head, but she's got some uniformity of depth. She's got some muscles. She's very sound on her feet and legs. Maybe a little finer bone than the heifer I started with, but I do appreciate the moderation that she brings to the table. The young lady's heifer here in the next spot falls in there very similar. She's got a little more soundness than some of the other heifers later on in the class. She's a heifer that gets a little weak in her loin when she walks and moves and travels. Some depth, some rib, stands on maybe a little more substance of bone than my second heifer, maybe a little more extended through her front end. I gave the advantage to the moderation in size, and she falls into third spot. The red heifer is a little narrower tracking from behind than some of the other heifers. She's certainly a heifer that I love when you get her profiled. You get her on the side and she's level down her top. She's good out her hip. She's got a lot of body capacity, really broody in terms of her appearance, a little finer made and a little more refined. That goes along with a little less muscle and a little less bone, but I do appreciate the moderation that she brings to the table. She's a lot more like my number 1 and number 2 heifer from that standpoint. The young lady's black heifer here in the next spot, certainly a heifer I like overall when I evaluate her. She's a heifer that once you get her stood up, she is a heifer that profiles is about as good as anything in here. She's probably got more depth of body than a couple of those other heifers. She's very good in her condition. She's very feminine through her front end. I worry that heifer's getting a little bit long-toed. I think that's going to take away from her longevity. I'm pretty harsh on structural, but certainly a nice heifer overall. The next heifer's got more muscle than probably the 2 or 3 heifers above her. She's a female that is a little tighter in terms of her makeup. She wants to get her feet up under her, a little choppier strided as well. Wants to pop those pasterns over. I think that takes away from her soundness. Certainly she brings more muscle to the table than some of the other heifers, but she doesn't bring it in as feminine a package as I'd like to see. The gray heifer here, there's a lot to like in terms of her commercial performance. She's a female that's got some ribs. She's got some capacity. She's going to be sounder than some of the other heifers that I've used in terms of moving on down the class. She's a female that just didn't put all the pieces together for me today. She's got parts I like on her and parts that I would change. She's just not quite as flashy as 2 or 3 of the heifers above her. I really like the way the red heifer, when you get her set up, that heifer profile is about as good as anything today. She may be a little bit too moderate, a little bit too early in her pattern. I'm guessing that she's probably bred for the show steer trade. She's a heifer that's too stiff on both hind legs for me today. That's why she rolled down in the class a little bit further. She's a little choppier in her stride. She doesn't want to get any flex to that hock, and a little smaller in her foot. These next 2 heifers certainly very nice in terms of their type and kind. Both of them, I think, have some issues with their feet, and that's why they end up a little lower in the class. This heifer that's walking out, the gentleman's walking, wants to turn those front claws together. And you can see her kind of paddle as she moves, wants to pick those feet up. Same would be true of the heifer in the finishing the class out. Just not quite as fancy as some of the other heifers, and I don't think quite as sound.
Congratulations to our Class 8 exhibitors. Again, we want to say thanks to the Town and Country 4-H Club, Amy Perriman, for sponsoring that class. Coming in first, number 30, this is Caden Souza. Caden with the Bellevue Bald Eagles. Standing second in the class today, Cooper Alt of the Two Rivers 4-H Club. In third place, Hannah McCollum of the Bellevue Middle FFA. In fourth place, Lydia Sharp, Lydia with the North Marion High FFA. In fifth place, Brindley Hughes Camara of the Ocklawaha's Little Bit. In sixth place today, Shelby Peebles of the Dunellen High FFA. In seventh place, Gwen Brillhard, Gwen showing for the North Marion Junior FFA. In eighth place today, Camden Collins of the Vintage 4-H Club. And in ninth place, Lane Taylor of the Town and Country. And standing 10th, Riley Hall of the Lucky Learners 4-H Club. This is Class 8. These heifers will weigh between 996 and 1,030 pounds. I'm sorry. These heifers did weigh that. This is the next class coming in now. Class 9 now into the ring. Number 67, Layla Baldwin with Vanguard High FFA. Number 89, Samantha Farmer. Samantha showing with the North Marion High Junior FFA. Number 31, Kaylee Draper of the Bellevue Bald Eagles. Number 45, Ethan Gregerson of the Lake Weir High FFA. Number 48, Frank Sakuda. Frank showing with the Forest High FFA. Number 44, Emma Grace Dews. Emma showing with Kendrick 4-H. Number 33, Cheyenne Johnson. Cheyenne showing with the Dunellen 4-H Club. Number 13, Ashlyn Neal. Ashlyn showing for the Ocklawaha Little Bits 4-H. Number 21, Breely Yeomans. Breely showing for North Marion High Senior FFA. Number 23, this is Briley Hughes Camara showing for the Ocklawaha Little Bits. And number 63, this is Cheyenne Ams Hensley. Cheyenne showing a heifer belonging to the Lake Weir High FFA chapter. Class 9, these heifers ranging from 1,035 to 1,075 pounds. And we appreciate Miss Valerie Daly, Showcase Properties, as our sponsor of Class 9.
Some really closely matched females in this particular class. I'm going to go ahead and start with the young lady's heifer on this end. That's a heifer that I think is a pretty good kind of combination female. She's very moderate in her size, pretty good overall in terms of her structural makeup. I appreciate the amount of volume and capacity. I got her over here in the sunlight, couldn't see her, and lost her for a little while. She may not be the heaviest boned heifer in here. She's probably more correct in terms of the amount of hair that she has. She's very nice in terms of her overall makeup, and I give her advantage today over the heifer in the second hole. I appreciate her moderation that particular heifer brings to the table. The heifer in the second spot's sure nice. She's probably the nicest profiling heifer, one of the nicest profiling heifers I've seen today. Level down her top, got a great hip in her, tons of volume and capacity. When you get behind that heifer, she travels a little bit base narrow. When you set her up, she stands wide. But when she walks, she travels a little bit narrower. I think there's a little more hair there than I'd like to see. I think that takes away from her functionality to me as far as I'm concerned today. The heifer in the third spot is a heifer that I had trouble with because I liked her in the first spot, to be honest with you. I love her moderation. I like her depth of body. I like everything about that female. But her front feet tend to toe out just a little too much for my taste. She wants to roll that left front foot. I think that takes away from her functionality. She is a much more moderate heifer. I think she's more correct in terms of her size, her volume, her capacity, and her fleshing ability. Certainly a nice female overall. The heifer in the next spot kind of closely follows her in terms of size and type. Maybe not as moderate, very stylish and eye-appealing. It's got some depth and body, probably a little sounder on her front end, but just was outclassed by three really good heifers up above her today. The yellow heifer in the next spot, I appreciate the moderation that heifer brings to the table. She's fairly easy fleshing from that standpoint. She's probably got more natural thickness of muscling than two or three of the other heifers that were up above her. She's not quite as flashy in terms of her makeup. She's not quite as level right behind her shoulder. Even though she does have a little more muscle today, I think she takes away. She doesn't have quite the femininity I'd like to see overall in a female. She's another one of these that would have made a heck of a steer had she come out that way. The young lady's heifer in the next spot, certainly a nice female, a lot of length and extension there, probably more feminine fronted than the yellow heifer. She's a heifer that's not uniform in her depth. I'd like to see her bring that rib all the way back into her flank, stand on a little more substance of bone. I think that'd make her a little more competitive today. The heifer in the next spot, the young lady's heifer here, wants to roach her top a little when she walks and moves. She's a female that's a little plainer than some of the females that were above her. She just doesn't want to stand and set up nearly as nice. There's a lot to like about her. I like her length of side. I like a lot of things about her, but she was up against some pretty stiff contestants today. The heifer in the next spot, this young man's heifer here, is a little flashier. Maybe not as much substance to her as the heifers above her. She's a little flatter in her quarter, certainly feminine fronted, but again, I don't think she walks and travels quite as true as she should. I appreciate the hair coat on the young lady's next heifer. I think that's a heifer that's maybe a little more functional in her type and kind. She needs more rib and volume capacity to go with that. Then we finish the class out with a couple of heifers that are very good in terms of their type and kind. I just would like to true them up on their feet a little bit more. They tend to want to roll those feet just a little bit, get a little longer toed, and have a little more claw shape to that front end. I think you can see it as these heifers walk and move. They're really not setting that foot down with a lot of integrity, and I think that's going to take away from the functionality.
Congratulations to our Class 9 exhibitors. And again, we want to thank Showcase Properties, Miss Valerie Daly, for sponsoring Class 9. Winning the class, we have number 44, Emma Grace Dews. Congratulations, Emma. Emma showing with the Kendrick 4-H Club. In second place, Breeley Yeomans of the North Marion High Senior FFA. In third place, Kaylee Draper of the Bellevue Bald Eagles. Standing fourth, Ethan Gregerson of the Lake Weir High FFA. In fifth place today, Briley Hughes Chimera of the Ocklawaha Little Bits. In sixth place, Samantha Farmer of the North Marion High Junior FFA. In seventh place, Layla Baldwin of the Vanguard High FFA. In eighth place, Frank Sakuda, Frank showing with the Forest High FFA. In ninth place, this is Cheyenne and Tinsley, Cheyenne showing the Lake Weir High heifer. And in 10th place, Cheyenne Johnson of the Dunellen FFA. And in 11th place, Ashlyn Neal of the Ocklawaha Little Bits. Congratulations, Class 9. We now have Class 10 into the ring. These heifers will range from 1,080 to 1,130 pounds. Number 14, this is Aubrey Bukovic of the Vanguard High FFA. Number 69, Lila Hudgens of the Kendrick 4-H Club. Number 12, Ashlyn Wan, Osceola Middle FFA. Number 24, Caleb Smith. Caleb showing with the Bellevue Bald Eagles. Number 87, Roberto Zubedia of the North Marion High FFA. Number 106, Zachary Duncan of the Westport High FFA. Number 102, this is James Campbell. James showing a heifer belonging to the Vanguard High FFA. Number 34, Chloe Davis showing with Wild and Country 4-H. Number 29, Carson Oliver. Carson showing with the Bellevue Bald Eagles. Number 37, Cora Taylor with the Town and Country 4-H. And number 67, another Layla Baldwin entry from the Vanguard High FFA. And number 82, this is Reagan Barlow. Reagan showing with the Ocklawaha Little Bits. Class 10 being sponsored by Creative Photos by Tracy. This is Tracy Bazemore. Tracy's in the ring here with her camera as always, our official photographer. We encourage you to look at her website, and there will be a lot of opportunities to purchase your favorite photographs from the 2022 Southeastern Youth Fair.
had to make some decisions on this particular class as I evaluate them. There's a lot. And the one big advantage to me today, this is the only heifer in here that shows me that she's reproduced. Many of these other heifers may have reproduced and may be pregnant right now, but she's already exhibiting that. And I think that's very important when we get into the heifers of this age, because they're actually working in the real world, and that's a real world heifer that I think is going to make a female 15 years from now, and I think that's very important. The heifer in the second spot, certainly a nice profiled heifer. I run into a set of heifers here that are really all very, very nice. I appreciate the moderation in terms of her size. I think she's going to be more correct in terms of her size. She certainly profiles very nice. She's very level down her top. She's pretty sound on her feet and legs. That's why she goes in that spot. I do like her when she's set up. She's got the best combination of rib, volume, moderation overall. Certainly a nice female. She's just the wrong kind for me today. There's too much hair there. I see lots of these. I don't mean to be preachy, but I see lots of these cattle at different schools. And I think as a heifer, when they've been on feed, they look really good. As a cow, when I go back and look at them 3 or 4 years later, they don't. And I think that's a function of the environment. This young lady's heifer is very nice in terms of her type and kind. She wants to roach her top a little when she walks and moves and travels, giving her fits today, but she's got some depth and she's got some rib. She was off over here at the end of the class, and I almost missed her, but I think that's a lot of functionality in that female. She most closely follows the pattern of a heifer in my second spot. Young lady's heifer in the next spot, maybe a little better in terms of her hair coat,